hope you're all well. Today I am going to be doing my March wrap up. I think, if I remember correctly, this has been my best reading month by like one book. I think in January I read 20 books. This month I have read 21. I've managed to read a grand total of 6,194 pages, and I have DNF'd 5 books maybe. So let's get into it, shall we? Because I don't want to be here too long. These are going to be, for the most part, rapid fire because I have done vlogs on all of these. So if you wanted to hear my in-depth thoughts on them, you can check out my reading vlogs if you would like to do so. I will leave links to them up here somewhere, and I will also link them in the description box down below. So we are going to start off with a Kindle book that I did read, and it was Worth Every Penny by Ray Ryder. I really enjoyed this. This was a billionaire romance, and it was one I hadn't even heard of at the beginning of the month, and I just decided to pick it up. I came across the author on Threads and I decided to pick it up, and I really enjoyed this. I loved the writing style. It's set in the UK and I loved the Britishisms in it. It was very British and I loved it. It felt like home, and I just loved the author's writing style as well. This is the first in a series, so I would like to continue on with said series, but I had a very good time with it and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. It was fantastic, so shout out to Ray Ryder for that. Then I did wrap up a series and I read The Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. So I've started a new series, I've wrapped a series up. I'm so glad that I got to this one as quickly as I did because I loved this. This was fantastic. I think that upon reread of this series, it is a duology, the first one being The Crimson Moth. I think upon reread I would actually enjoy this series more, and these books could end up with 5 stars upon reread, and reading them back to back as well. Definitely this one, I think. So this was such a surprise to me, this series in general. When I picked up The Crimson Moth, I'd been resisting really hard because I didn't think it was going to be for me. It had been pitched as YA and I didn't think it was going to be for me. This series should definitely be pitched as new adult, not YA, but I really enjoyed it regardless. I had a very good time. I love it when a book can surprise me like that. So I did give this one 4.5 stars. It was absolutely fantastic. So glad that I've got to the series and I've managed to wrap it up. So yay for that. Then I did start another series and I picked up Blood and Steel by Helen Scheurer. This is the first in the Legend of Thesmar series, and this, I was doing a buddy read with my patrons, like an unofficial buddy read with my patrons of the series, because I really wanted to get to it because Iron and Ember has come out by Helen Scheurer, and that series, albeit you don't have to have read this series, having now read it, I would highly recommend doing so, because the 2 characters, I didn't know who the characters were in that book until I got to book 2 in this series. I think it was book 2 or it might have been book 3, and I was like, please let these people have a book. And then I read the synopsis for Iron and Embers and I was like, yes. And I'm so excited to get to that series now. So Legend of Thesmar series, I loved this. It was absolutely fantastic. We are following Thea and we're also following Wilder. Thea would like to become a warrior legend. However, in this world, women have been banned from becoming warriors, despite the fact that they used to actually kind of, like, originally women were the war swords in this world. However, there has been a prophecy that says that a woman will end up bringing down the whole kind of thing, the patriarchy, bringing the whole thing down on its head, and men have naturally banned women from being war swords. So she was dreaming of becoming one. She ends up becoming part of the training. She manages to get herself within the training school, etc, etc, and then we come across Wilder, who is one of the war sword legends, and we just kind of go from there. It is romanticy, but I think the thing I loved about this the most is that the romance is kind of going on in the background. This has very heavy like plot and fantasy elements, and it was really good. I loved it so much, and I had a fantastic time. I ended up giving it 5 stars. It was so good, which meant that naturally for most people, but not necessarily for me, I did immediately go on to Vows and Ruins, which is book 2 in the Legend of Thesmar series. Again, absolutely loved this one, gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. I've tabbed all of these books up I just had such a good time and I loved it so much. I couldn't stop. I couldn't put the series down. It was incredible. I did at this point have to put the series down because I then had an episode of Keep It or Eat It to film, and I was kind of stuck with that week a little bit because I was doing box with my patrons as well. So I did then at this point put the series down. But within that week, I also read Days at the Morisaki Bookshop by Satoshi Yagasawa. I really enjoyed this. This was so good. And I have now bought the second one. So I'm looking forward to picking that one up. But I really enjoyed this one. It's translated fiction and it's following this woman who's just kind of having a terrible time in life. I think she's lost her job. Her boyfriend's broken up with her or something like that. And she ends up staying with her uncle, who's a little bit eccentric and a little bit out there. She ends up staying with him at his bookshop to try and save herself some money because she can no longer afford the apartment that she's living in. And she ends up helping around in the bookshop and just kind of finding a new lease in life, essentially, kind of seeing the world through clearer eyes and appreciating it a little bit more. And I just loved it. It was so good. The characters in here were lovely. It was just such a cozy place to be. I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. I had a pretty good reading month, I'm not gonna lie. Later on you will see a couple of like lower rated ones, but yeah, 4.5 stars for this one. We then got into Keep It or Eat It and I started the episode off with a DNF with Some Desperate Luck Glory by Emily Tesh. I just didn't enjoy this. I wasn't enjoying the writing style, I think, and I just wasn't enjoying the characters either. It's incredibly young. This is supposed to be an adult book and it reads like a YA, not even like a new adult like I've just been going on about with The Rebel Witch. It reads like a YA. It's incredibly young, and our main character that we're following is incredibly juvenile, so I just wasn't having a good time with this one. It wasn't for me. I will be unhauling this book. I then gave In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune a good old try, and I made it around about halfway through, I think, of this one, until I suddenly realised that I just was not enjoying myself. You know when you're reading a book and you just keep going with it and going with it and going with it, but something's off and you're not quite sure what it is, and then you suddenly realise it's that you're not enjoying the book. It happened with this one. I was just bored to death, honestly. It was funny. I was chuckling along with it and I did find it funny. I think the robots in here are quite funny, but other than that, nothing is happening. There isn't a great deal of plot with this. We are essentially following our main character, Giovanni. He is an android and he's a father figure for Vic, who is a younger boy who ends up in his care. There are 2 other robots as well as Giovanni, who's the father figure. There is a nurse and there is a small vacuum, yeah. But then he ends up coming across this other robot and it's called Hap. Now, it turns out that Giovanni and Hap have some history, but Hap can't remember it. And then Giovanni gets taken away. So they then go on this adventure to try and find Giovanni, and it was at that point they were on the adventure side of things. I was just really fucking bored and I just didn't care, in all honesty. I did not care. This book is way too long and I just didn't care. And I'm really sad about it because I was really hoping I was going to enjoy this. I've loved House in the Cerulean Sea, but I didn't love the other one, the Afterlife one. I don't even have it anymore. I didn't love that one, so I was sad about this one, but I have DNF'd it. Unfortunately, it is being unhauled. I had another copy to unhaul of this as well. It's already gone. It's already left the house. Then I did move on to Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson, which came in an Afterlight box. I gave this one 3 stars. I didn't love it, I've got to be honest. To be fair, maybe it should have had less than 3 stars. The romance side of things was okay. The plot was fine. I think the thing that gave me the ick is that I went into this thinking that it was going to be a fluffy romance that may have had some, you know, open door sex scenes, essentially, that may have had some smut in it, but I didn't expect it to be an actual monster romance, which is what this is. Now, I have no problem with monster romances. I've read monster romances before and enjoyed them. No issue with monster romance in the slightest. It just gave me whiplash and I wasn't expecting it. Like, you would not expect monster romance from this, right? Wasn't? I mean, maybe I should have, but I didn't. And it gave me the ick. I I wasn't expecting it, okay? It gave me the ick and I didn't like it. I gave it 3 stars. I do think it should have maybe been 2.5 instead. Maybe I'll adjust my rating, but I gave it 3 stars. I didn't love this one, unfortunately. And we had another DNF with The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd-Jones. I did not like this one. I wasn't enjoying the writing style, and I can't remember what else was the problem. I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember what the problem was. If you want to know what the issue was, I would recommend checking out Keep It or Eat It episode 3, but I can't remember, in all honesty. I just wasn't having a good time with this one, so that's an unhaul. It was a DNF. And then we did have one success for Keep It or Eat It, and it was Iron Widow by Ziran J. Zhao. Kieran J. Zhao. Ziran J. Zhao. I really enjoyed this. I should have read this back in February for Keep It or Eat It, and I just didn't get to it. I wasn't in the mood for sci-fi at the time, and then I picked this up on a whim. I was like, I could do with a really good win for this vlog, because so far it's not gone well. I DNF'd 3 books and didn't like the 4th book, so I wanted a win. This wasn't a guaranteed win, but I've heard nothing but good things, and it has a comparison to Pacific Rim in it, which is one of my favourite movies, so I thought that this would be a win. Turned out it was. I gave it 4 stars. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those, you know, bringing down the corruption from the inside type stories, and I love those, and I'm very excited to get to Heavenly Tyrant. I do need to get myself a copy. I'm still undecided whether or not to actually unhaul this or not. It's the original Illumicrate, and they've since redone them, and I had said that if I can get my hands on them and I enjoy it, I will try and get the new duology that Illumicrate have done with new edges. Unfortunately, it's sold out, so I can't get it. I can still get Heavenly Tyrant, but it won't match with this, so I don't see the point. So I'm probably just going to get a normal Heavenly Tyrant, or I may just listen to it on audio. I'm undecided. So once I've decided, I will decide what to do with this, whether or not to unhaul it. But 4 stars for this one. It was very good. At that point, I was then able to go back to the Legend of Thesma series, and recommended by Helen for emotional impact, and I would highly recommend this reading order 1000%. I then decided to pick up Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Scheurer, which is a standalone book, but it features characters that have been mentioned already in the first 2 books of the Legend of Thesma series, and for emotional impact is recommended you read this book at this point between books 2 and 3, and I would highly recommend doing so. I think that this is a great shout from Helen to have given us that option. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Naturally, the romance in Legend of Thesma series is a little bit more slow burn. In this one, it's a bit quicker. The book isn't as long as the Legend of Thesma books. It's still 400 pages. Actually, no, it's not, because that's part of the Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. But it is 370 pages, but the romance in this one is obviously a little bit quicker. However, I still really enjoyed it. I loved being in this world. I love getting to know these characters before we potentially meet them again in the rest of the series. But I absolutely love this. It was really, really good. 4.5 stars. Cannot recommend it enough. Again, I tapped the shit out of this one too. Then I read a little novella. I read It Waits in the Woods by Josh Malerman, and I really enjoyed this. This was really, really good. It was part of the Creature Feature collection that I was reading for, well, I got into it actually, and then I ended up reading it for the Our Fantasy 2024, which again, I've done a vlog for, so I will leave a link to it. But I was reading it as part of that, so I really enjoyed this. I've read from Josh Malerman before, and this one was really good. Very creepy, and I did end up giving it 4 stars. It was really, really good actually. Then I did read Fate and Furies by Helen Scheurer, which is book 3 in the Legend of Thesma series. Loved it. Gave it 5 stars. The story really starts to ramp up in this one, so again, tabbed the shit out of it. Can't tell you much more than that, but loved it nonetheless. Then at this point, I did slot in the rest of the novellas from the Creature Feature series. So In Bloom by Paul Tremblay, I ended up giving 1 star. I did not like this one at all. It didn't make any sense to me. It felt very choppy. It felt like a collection of chapters from a novel, or even a novella, like a longer novella, because this was like 30 odd pages. It felt like a couple of chapters had been taken out, put together, and he called it a short story. It made no sense and I didn't like it, and this has ended my relationship with Paul Tremblay forever. I haven't had a good track record with Paul Tremblay, I've got to be honest, so it was a risk reading this one, but I'm glad I've done it to complete the collection. I kind of wish I hadn't actually. I probably should have just left it and just done the other 5, but because it brought my overall rating down for the entire collection. But alas, I've done it now. I gave it 1 star. Then there was Best of Luck by Jason Mott. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This was quite good actually. I liked it. It was, other than Paul Tremblay's, it was my lowest rated of the rest of them, but I actually still liked it. I thought it was very good and I thought it was very clever, still creepy, and I did enjoy it for what it was. And then there was Big Bad by Chandler Baker. This one I gave 4 stars. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was very cleverly done and I really enjoyed the story overall. I've not told you the synopsis of any of these because they are short stories and I can't remember them off the top of my head. So if you want to, you know what they're about, you can go and check out the Our Fantasy video. I'm fairly certain I did all 4 of those in the Our Fantasy video. The last 3 I definitely did, but I think I did In the Woods by Josh Malerman as well. The other 2, The Pram and Ankle Snatcher, I read previously in a different video. If I could remember to do so, I will leave a link to it in the description box down below, but that was a while ago, last year I think. At this point I then did finish the Legend of Thesmar series with Shadow and Storms, which is the last one in this series. So I binged the entire Legend of Thesmar series in the month of March. When was the last time you ever heard me binge an entire series? Because I can't remember, because I don't think I've ever done it. I'm not sure if I've ever done it. I was just looking around the room now. I don't think I've ever done it. A 4-book series plus the 5th book with Slaying the Shadow Prince. I binged a whole lot in 1 month. 5 stars. It was a 5-star series overall and I absolutely loved it. Again, tabbed the shit out of this. Fantastic, highly recommend. Then I did read See You at the Altar by Rebecca Thorne. I was on the book tour for this and my review was going out on the day of release and I really enjoyed this one. I actually think I enjoyed this one the most out of the series so far. This is the 3rd in the series, starting off with Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. The second one is Pirate's Life for Tea, and then we've got See You at the Altar, and this one essentially is a coup to overthrow the Queen Tulane, because she's a bitch, and Keanth and Rhaena decide that they are going to have a wedding in order to do this. It would be a big enough event that she would come uninvited and it would be a great idea, a great way for them to try and overthrow her. And it was fascinating. I loved it. We were back in Tawny, the small town, which I loved because in the second one we did go off out to sea Pirate's Life for Tea, and I prefer the cozy vibes of the town of Tawny. So I loved that. I loved the fact that we were back in town, we were back with familiar characters. I love that we introduced new characters, we had all characters from other books come in, and I just overall really loved this one. I liked the vibes of it. I liked the overthrowing the Queen side of thing. I will say at the beginning I was feeling a little bit all over the place with it because we were in and out and Rhaena and Keanth were doing different things separately and then some stuff together, and they were, you know, in different parts of town doing different shit for the wedding, shit for overthrowing the Queen. You know, they had their own stuff going on. I was thrown a little bit, but overall really enjoyed this one. Ended up giving it 4.5 stars. It was fantastic, my favourite in the series so far. Okay, next we did have The Deep by River Solomon. Again, this was for the Our Fantasy vlog, and I did give this one 2 stars. I didn't love this, I've got to be honest. I appreciate what the author was doing with this story and what the story was trying to do as well, but it just wasn't for me personally. I just didn't have a good time with it, and I didn't particularly like the writing style. I knew that was probably going to be the case before I picked it up because I do think this is like literary horror, but I just didn't love it, unfortunately. It is what it is. I went into it hoping that I would like it more than I thought I was going to, but unfortunately just wasn't the case. It is what it is. 2 stars. At this point I did DNF another book. It was an ARC and it was Savage by Calla Riley. I'm still upset about this, I'm not gonna lie. I was really enjoying this and I got around 60% in, maybe a little bit further. I think I had 60 pages to go. Actually, I was probably like more 80% in, I don't know. But I think I had about 60 pages to go and I ended up DNFing it, and I'm really, really sad about it because it's because of a trigger rather than something wrong with the book. I do think that overall the book probably wouldn't have got much more than about 3 stars. I think that the writing could have done with another pass through editing. However, I was enjoying the plot overall. We've got our 2 main characters. We've got Savage, who is the leader of this MC. He's the president of the MC. And then we've got Bailey. And they have a past together. They've been friends forever since being kids, and I think they're both in love with each other and have been since they were kids, but I don't think a relationship ever actually happened. And before it could, Savage decided that he was going to leave and go to the army because he didn't want to become part of the MC. Something happened in which he ended up having to come back. It like broke Bailey's heart, but something happened that meant he had to come back and take over the MC and try and rebuild it. So now he's back in town, and him and Bailey end up crossing paths because of a case that she's working on. She's now a PI, and they end up crossing paths because of this case, because he's had a run-in with this guy. So this all happens, but Bailey's got a stalker, and the stalking element only happens when she's back in contact again with Savage and the Lotus MC. And the stalking element for a little bit wasn't bothering me, but after a few chapters it did start to kick in, and I was starting to feel sluggish. I was struggling with other reads. I couldn't pick up an audiobook. I couldn't concentrate properly on audiobooks, and I was just struggling massively with concentration and restlessness, and I hadn't fully figured out what the problem was until I did. And it's this book, and it was the stalking element, and I'm really sad about it because I wanted to know who the stalker was, why he was stalking her, and why it related to the MC. And I also wanted to find out what happened to this guy that she's looking for, and I got none of those answers, and I'm still salty about it. Because I've read from Calla Riley before, and I've enjoyed a book from them before. This is 2 authors, a bit like Christina Lauren, and I will read more from them in the future, but I'm just really mad about it, and I am tempted after April to go back and finish it off. And if it puts me in a slump, it puts me in a slump. It is what it is, but I want to know. I just want to know what happens at the end. And it was only 60 pages. The problem is, had I just carried on ploughing through it, I would have put myself in a slump. I would have been struggling from here on out for a couple months, I think. But alas, I had to DNF it, and I'm still mad about it. So there's nothing I can do about that now. It is what it is. I then went on to Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Shauna Maguire. I was reading this again for our fantasy, to wrap up our fantasy TBR, bingo board, etc, etc. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I think I've had too long out of this series in which I started to struggle with remembering who the characters were and what type of people they were. I remembered Antsy from Lost in the Moment and Found because that's my favourite book in the series, but the other characters, the other kids, I didn't really remember them, and it wasn't solely focusing on Antsy, it was on all these other kids that she ended up with as well. So I did struggle with this one a little bit, did give it 3.5 stars. I think if I reread it, binge the series and reread it, I might enjoy it a bit more. But yeah, 3.5 stars for that one. Then I did read Chris Mould's War of the Worlds. This is a graphic novel adaptation that's inspired by H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. I really enjoyed this one. This was so good. I do have a signed and personalised copy because when we went to the shop in Halifax and I saw this, it was in an indie bookshop, and I saw it, I wanted to pick it up, and he was getting it me for Christmas. As it turned out, Chris was in there signing them. So he personalised it for me. I got a picture with him. It's all very cool. So that, the fact that I am actually a hardcore fan of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, which is the musical adaptation, me and my dad are huge fans of it, and if we ever are in the car, just the 2 of us, that's what we listen to over everything else. That's what we choose to listen to. We like it very much. And I've also seen the live musical as well at Manchester. It was so good. Went with my parents and it was really good. I want to go again. So overall, in general, my experience with War of the Worlds, I love this. Very good. The illustrations are incredible. I would like to pick up more from Chris Mould actually, but the illustrations were incredible. The story was very good. I gave this 4.5 stars. It was so good. I had so much fun with it. Then we have my favourite book of the month, and it is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. She never lets me down. I love her so much. She's my favourite author of all time, officially, statistically speaking. This is my 8th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the short story, 7, 8th This is my 8th 5-star read for Abby Jimenez. There's only 2 short stories that I haven't read from her that I need to get to. The Fall Risk, which has a stalking element, so I don't know if I'm going to pick that up. And then also The Worst Best Man, I think it's called, something like that. So I would like to get to those, but we'll see. This, however, I had an arc for it, gave it 5 stars. It was so good, and I cannot recommend it enough. It was incredible. This is my favourite from her so far. In fact, every single time I pick one of her books up, I think it's my favourite from her. This one though, so good. So good. Chef's kiss. I loved it. Favourite book of the month. Favourite Abby Jimenez by far. Then I did DNF Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This was my non-fiction for the month, and I did end up DNFing this one. I just wasn't enjoying it. I got, I think, about 100 pages in, I'm not sure. I just wasn't enjoying it. I feel like this is a book that I would have appreciated back in my early 20s, maybe even when it came out in my late 20s, but now that I'm 35, I have gone through a lot of kind of stuff. Not, you know, it's not a competition, but not stuff other people have, but I've gone through a lot in my life, especially my late 20s to early 30s. I had a mental breakdown. I lost my first grandparent. My first nephew was born. You know, I had a lot of stuff going on. I was going through heartbreak. I was really struggling with a lot of things. I was in the process of changing careers, going from being in construction to becoming full-time in content creation and social media management, and it was a lot. I had a lot going on in, you know, the last, I would say, 7 or 8 years of my life. A lot has happened. So this for me just didn't hit the same. I found it quite obnoxious. I found it quite pretentious. I think Dolly came across as a bit of a bitch, and I don't know if that is because it's got something to do with the fact that she was I don't know, like, she's grown up quite privileged. I think, like, her parents had money and they weren't shy about throwing that around with her. Even in her uni years, you know, she wasn't living the uni lifestyle that I lived, and I didn't live at uni. So, you know, it was just, I just found it quite pretentious, and it just wasn't doing for me what I thought it might do. So, I don't know, I was bored and I didn't like it. I just found myself disliking Dolly more and more as I read the book, which is a shame, and I didn't want to do that. So I DNF'd that one. Then I did pick up Exit Strategy by Martha Wells, the 4th book in the Murderbot Diaries. I think it's the 4th book anyway, for our fantasy bingo. This was the last book for that, and I did give this one 3.5 stars. Again, very similar story with Mislaid in Parts Half Known. It's been a long time since I've picked a book up in this series, and I think that I just was scrabbling a little bit in the beginning, trying to remember what had happened at the end of the last book, and I found myself losing my way a little bit at the beginning of this, so, which is a struggle to do when it's a short book, you know, because by the time you've got to grips with it again, you're coming to the end. So 3.5 stars for this one. Again, I think if I binge them, read them back to back, I would probably enjoy them a little bit more. On this basis, I am going to try and pick up the last 3 that I have on my shelves pretty quickly so that I don't lose my way again. But yeah, 3.5 stars for this one. And then last but by no means least, I did pick up The 3-Body Problem, the comic, and I gave this one 1 star. Yes, I did. 1 star. I didn't enjoy this. I don't know what happened. I don't understand. I think that as pretty as the art style is, I found myself getting confused with the characters a little bit. You know, it was, I think, a good idea in theory. I don't know if it's that you've got to continue reading for it to make some sort of sense, but the fact that I was so confused with this and just didn't fucking understand it at all, I'm not going to continue on with the series, unfortunately. 1 star for this one. So those are the 21 books that I read and the 5 DNFs that I had. How many DNFs did I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 DNFs that I had. The 26 books I attempted in March. And I'm about to, we're in April now, and my aim is 30 books in 30 days. We'll have to see how this goes. I don't know how many DNFs I'm going to end up with during this process, but we'll have to see how that goes. I'm going to have to be a little bit more picky, I think, about my books for Keep It or Eat It, but we'll see. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. Chat to me in the comments down below. What was your best book of March? Or if you want to tell me about your worst book of March, let me know if you had one. I hope you have enjoyed. Speak to me in the comments down below, and I will see you in whatever comes next. Bye for now.